We've dropped our bags at our hotel, had a look around. The room isn't ready yet, so we've just left our bags there, and now we're on the road walking through central Copenhagen to the Hard Rock Cafe. We're going to try the local burger there, get a spot of lunch. Time now is about 11 o'clock, so we're a little bit early, but we've been up since 4 o'clock this morning to get the early flight. We'll be at the Hard Rock in about 5-10 minutes and pick up from there. Made it to the Hard Rock in Copenhagen. Just ordered, so we've got the local legendary burger that's been ordered. Just give you an overview of the restaurant itself. It's quite a small restaurant. There is an upstairs as well, but it's a lot smaller than a lot of the normal Hard Rock cafes. The Orlando one in particular, I believe that's the biggest one in the world. So we've got some memorabilia, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, Foo Fighters. So we're just waiting for the food to come out. I'll show you the burger that we've ordered. Just having a quick look around. So we're overlooking the central square here. It's not really a very big cafe in its own right. There's 2 floors to it. You've got some of the merchandise, some of the memorabilia that is around. So Ricky Martin, no doubt. So we've just received the burger. We've got the burger itself, string onions. There's pickles down there in the bottom, as well as a side of gravy and the chips. So let's give it a try. Nice succulent taste, crispy onions. Pickles, not overly keen on pickles, but they work well in the burger. Give the gravy a try that's on the side here. It's quite a rich, juicy gravy. I think overall quite good. £15 total value that this is, roughly. Yeah, definitely worth the money, I'd say. Taking the metro, one stop. We're heading to the Christenborg Palace. It's going to be our first tourist attraction of the day, and I believe we're going to the stables after that, and just spending a few hours just doing the nice, easy-going tourist attractions today. Pretty horrendous weather here this week. So coming up, I believe this is the palace here on our right-hand side. Statues and monuments. So we'll get into the palace, scan our tickets. We've got the Copenhagen card, which worked out to be around £100 per person, and that gets us into a whole multitude of attractions all on one pass, so we don't have to pay any extras out over the course of this weekend. Basically, it's very, very cost effective. We do try and do the card or the passes in any of the cities that we go to. So I know California has a very similar one, New York has something similar, Dublin, we've used the Dublin pass previously, and they all save you quite a great deal of money if you use them effectively. So we've come down into the ruins of the Christenborg Palace. The actual palace is above us, but we're underneath currently. What we have here is a well and an oven, and the inner side of the southern gable around the back there. So this is various aspects of the castle, the ruins underneath and what it would have been like there, effectively showing you what the area would have been like back in the day. So we'll take a look around and let you know what it's like at the end and whether it's worth the money and whether it's worth getting in. So we've been down in the ruins of the Christenborg Palace for around about 15-20 minutes now. There's a lot of signs that explain each of the aspects that we're seeing. So this here would be the ruins of the Blue Tower, and looking over all the signs, it gives you an overview of each of the aspects as well as the various stages in which you'd see the castle over the course of 500, 600, 700 years. So here's a model of what the castle, the palace, would have been like around about 400 years ago. So that wasn't around too long. As you can see, it's quite vast. There's around about 4 or 5 big rooms in here. So you've just come out of the ruins. The reception room over here to the right is actually closed today as the Queen is in session. So we're going to leave that today and potentially come back on Saturday or Sunday. It's closed today and tomorrow. So we're going to head down here just out of the gate, and round to the right is the kitchens of the palace. So that's where we'll be going to next. So just going into the kitchens, this is where much of the royal banquets would have been prepared. As you come in over here on the right hand side, there's what's essentially a map of the area, giving you an overview of all of the pots and their various functions. So as you can see, walking around here, this is number 1, so these are stock pot. Number 2 here, fish kettles, and so on and so forth, and each one has its own individual function. So this is the oven. And as you come through, this is where we flip the map over. And this is where the desserts and the likes were prepared. So the ice cream and such. Through here, this is where the staff would have spent their break in between preparing all the meals. Going back through here, this is where the flower arrangement would have been done for those feasts. So that's a quick high-level overview of the kitchens and what they entail. That's essentially all that's in this area. So we'll be heading out of here and into the stables next, and that'll be pretty much it for the palaces for today, due to the reception rooms being closed for the Queen being on. So we're picking up in the stables now, and this is an exhibition of the historic horses for the royal family. The white horse traditionally was the rarest of them all, the most coveted, and was often given as a gift to other royal families. Saddles were also given as a sign of respect and as a gift when visiting other royals. So these are some of the uniforms that would have been worn by the stable hands and the royal staff when accompanying the royal family. And these are some additional saddles. So as we leave, we go into the actual stables themselves, where we see some of the horses that are currently here. So after we've been through here, we head through the door at the end. So as I mentioned before, we're just heading through the door at the end of the stables. It turns out there are 6 staff and 14 to 16 horses. So in this room, this is where you'd find all of the carriages that the royal family would have used throughout the years. So this down the end here is a representation of what the carriage would have looked like. Generally, at least 2 horses. This representation in particular has 8 horses, and this is where a member of the royal family would have sat at the time during royal engagements. So that's pretty much an overview of the stables themselves. So having finished in the stables, we've decided to walk just down the road here. It's around about 500 metres from the stables and from the palace. It's the National Museum of Copenhagen. So that'll just give us a little bit of a history and overview of what's going on in Copenhagen over the years. We'll see what kind of exhibits they've got in there. We've made it into the National Museum. As I mentioned previously, this was also included on the Copenhagen card. That card also includes free transportation, so we got from the airport to the city centre and using the metro, the underground system, free of charge. General overview of the museum itself. It's a pretty standard museum, so you've got Danish prehistory through there, go upstairs, and it's Denmark through the ages essentially. So we're going to head inside the Danish prehistory section first off and just give you a little bit of an overview of what it's like. So this is kind of the general vibe of what the museum's going to be like. Fortunately, the majority of the attractions here do have it in Danish as well as English underneath. So if you are into fully reading up at each exhibit, it is possible. So we're going to spend probably about an hour and a half walking around here, just cluing up on the Danish history and seeing what it's like. We finished in the museum, the National Museum. That's located down there. We actually got here probably in about 45 seconds using these Lime scooters. So they're pretty handy. Over here you can ride in the bike lane. And we just took them probably about a kilometre that way. And we've come down to the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. We're going to go in here. If you're familiar with Ripley's, it's basically a museum of abnormalities and weird goings on, essentially. So we're going to go in here, just have a look around, and then see how long this takes, and hopefully head up to the Architecture Museum later. We're inside. Again, this was something that was included on the Copenhagen card. So this is what I was talking about previously, the weird and wonderful. So this is a model of the Taj Mahal made out of matchsticks. This model is made out of engine parts. And this is essentially a model of a guy who didn't have legs, and he was essentially a performing artist. He didn't have any legs or lower torso. This is a giant good luck coin. This is a sheath for a certain area of a man's anatomy. And this is a human hair brooch. So as you can see, the weird things that are going on in here. I'm not going to take you through all the museum because I don't want to spoil the fun for you. But I'll pick up and give a little review of it. So I'm walking on perfectly level ground, and it's actually very difficult to stay in a straight line. Just one of the really weird, trippy things in here. Many random, weird oddities. It's actually very creepy and very scary to walk through some of these areas. So included as part of the admission to Ripley's, believe it or not, we have the Hans Christian Andersen Museum. So this is effectively a museum of all the fairy tales and the likes, and just giving you a history of his life. You've got all of the fairy tales and the history in both English as well as Danish and German. It just gives you a general overview of how he was brought up and how he came to be, essentially. So this is, as I said, included in the admission. So why not? Just come out of the Hans Christian Andersen aspect of the museum. So just come through there and heading out into the exit in the gift shop. A little bit of feedback from the whole exhibition. The Ripley's, believe it or not, it seems as though it's a similar exhibition all over the world, maybe a slight tweak here and there. There is a part on torture which is completely unavoidable, so if you're with small children or anything like that, it may not be best for them. You may have to cover their eyes or carry them through or such, as it may upset them. Comparing that to the Hans Christian Andersen aspect of the attraction, I'd say personally I preferred the Hans Christian Andersen aspect. I wouldn't have paid money for the Ripley's, or believe it or not, had it not been included in the pass. So I think if you've got the Copenhagen card and you've got the pass and it is included, it's definitely worth going along because you're getting good value for money out of it. If you haven't got the card, I wouldn't say it's worth paying anything extra for it. If you can do the Ripley's, believe it or not, separately to the Hans Christian Andersen part, which I believe you can, just come and do the Hans Christian Andersen part. It's part of Danish culture, Danish history, and it's definitely worth what you'd pay for it. So with that said, we finished here. We're going to take one of the Lime scooters that I showed you earlier back up to the Architecture Museum, and that'll be our final tourist attraction for the day. What you have here in this particular section is an exhibit on sustainable furniture and effectively space-saving furniture. So this table coming up is a fold-away table. It's round and then it can be sectioned off into a square table to save space or when you have additional guests. So all of this furniture can be flat back as well. And it's all made out of recycled material. So this wardrobe here, as you can see, can pack down into just a few pieces and then can be packed up and moved on easily. This table is made out of aluminium shavings from manufacturing of laptops, mobile phones or anything like that. And these chairs here are made out of cork, and these ones are made out of compressed wood shavings and things like that. So it's a pretty cool exhibit on the ways we can conserve energy and reuse and recycle the materials that we have around us. So this particular piece, that's actually tyre inner tubes, bike inner tubes that are used to make the back of the chair. So that's a very quick overview of the sustainable furniture exhibit, and we'll be moving on to the next exhibit after this. So this is the Kids City. It's a little bit different to what I was expecting. It's essentially a glorified play area, but there's a few cool things. So you've got this building block, you've got a ball pit, you've got these scale houses and a full climbing frame. So it's something different, something interesting. Yeah, it would be good to bring a kid here. They'd definitely have a bit of fun. But that's pretty much our day now. We're just leaving the leaving the architecture centre, get some food and head back to the hotel and call it night. It's been up quite a long time at this point. So go from there. So I'll have a look and do a review of the hotel, see how that goes. A few more things down here, as you can see. This was, I can imagine, more of the kids' city area. But overall, I think it's definitely a cool experience. So yeah, that's the Danish Architecture Centre.